The giant Pacific octopus. Every parent has a line they tell themselves they'd cross for their kids. This animal proves it, then keeps walking. She finds a rocky den, lays a clutch of up to 100,000 eggs, and the moment she's done, she makes a decision no human mother ever has to make. She won't eat again. For the next 4 to 5 years, she stays in that den, fanning the clutch with her arms to oxygenate them, cleaning each egg by hand to keep fungus off. No snack breaks. Not one. The deep-sea record holder, Granellodon boreopacifica, was documented brooding for 53 months at Monterey Bay. That's longer than a human pregnancy, infancy, and toddler stage combined, all done on an empty stomach. Most people would assume she's neglecting herself. Turns out it isn't neglect at all. Her optic gland releases hormones that hard shut her feeding behavior and trigger her body to start breaking down. Evolution looked at maternity leave and said, what if it were terminal? The day the eggs hatch, she dies. That's the deal. Motherhood for her is the most expensive contract in the ocean, and she signs it once. The Caecilian. You've never heard of this animal. Your skin is going to crawl when you find out what it does. Her skin grows thicker, fattier, and richer in nutrients, and that isn't for her. The Taita African Caecilian is a legless, eyeless, worm-like amphibian that burrows through East African soils. When her young hatch, they don't go looking for food. The food's already there, attached to mom. Her outer skin layer transforms into a lipid-rich coating, and her babies use temporary spoon-shaped teeth to peel it off in strips. Spoons. They're little pink squirming things with spoons in their mouths, and the spoons are designed for one job. She regrows the skin layer in about 3 days, and the cycle repeats for weeks. This is called dermatotrophy, and it's an entire alternative to nursing, invented separately from mammals. Direct biochemical investment. No mammary gland required. Human kids fight over who gets the last cookie. These kids are eating mom. She is, in the most literal possible sense, the meal. The black lace weaver spider. This is the kind of fact that ruins your appetite for an hour. She's a small, common European spider, the kind you'd find under a rock or in the corner of a damp cellar, and she has scheduled this. It's on the calendar. After her spiderlings hatch, she lays a second batch of unfertilized eggs, just for them to practice eating. The practice round runs out fast. Then she does the part that biology textbooks describe in deliberately clinical language. She drums on the web with a specific signal. The spiderlings recognize it, and they swarm. 60 to 130 babies, each one taking a piece, and within hours, her entire body is gone. Studies on Amaurobius ferox show that broods that consume mom grow faster, hunt sooner, and survive winter at higher rates than broods that don't. A year of foraging concentrated into one nutritional pulse, delivered on a schedule she set herself. If you're still here after that, you're the kind of viewer I make these videos for. I post new animal deep dives like this regularly, and subscribing really helps. Thanks. The Surinam Toad. There's a reason this video exists at all, and this section is most of it. She doesn't lay her eggs in the water. She doesn't bury them. Where they end up is worse. Pipa pipa is a flat, leaf-shaped aquatic toad from the slow rivers of South America, and during mating, the male presses fertilized eggs onto her dorsal skin in a tumbling embrace. The skin grows over each egg, sealing it inside. Her back becomes a honeycomb of nursery cells, 60 to 100 of them, each holding one developing toadlet. The babies skip the free-swimming tadpole stage entirely. They develop directly inside her back, fully formed, and weeks later, they push out through preformed pores and swim away. Most people picture this like a horror movie burst, but it isn't. The pores are already there. The emergence is gradual through structures already built into her body. She has traded her skin's surface area for a generation. Same deal as the octopus, different currency. Imagine your back, but with 100 babies in it. Biologists are still arguing whether the babies count as parasites or passengers. Trypophobia was invented for this animal, the strawberry poison frog. This is the parenting version of running 10 different commutes a day, and she does it for weeks. She lays a clutch of eggs on the forest floor. Then she does something with the tadpoles that no human parent would tolerate doing for 2 children, much less 10. Once the eggs hatch, she carries each tadpole on her back individually up the trunk of a separate rainforest tree. Each one gets dropped into its own water-filled bromeliad, high up in the canopy. Then, every few days, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, she climbs back up to every single bromeliad to lay an unfertilized feeder egg as food. She doesn't share. Each tadpole gets its own apartment and its own room service. She's doing 10 separate after-school pickups every day for 2 months. The reason for this elaborate setup is that forest floor pools dry up, but bromeliads hold water through droughts. Isolation also keeps the tadpoles from eating each other, which Ufaga pumilio tadpoles are perfectly happy to do given the chance. It's the most attentive parenting in the animal kingdom, and it's done by something the size of a thumbtack. Most parents complain about driving their kids to soccer practice. The frog has done a 1/4-mile vertical climb before sunrise. The echidna. You think you know how mammals reproduce. This animal exists to make sure you don't. She's a mammal, she has fur, and she nurses. She also lays an egg. Where it goes is the part nobody mentions. The short-beaked echidna is a monotreme, one of only 5 egg-laying mammal species alive today. And during breeding season, she grows a temporary pouch-like fold on her belly. Not a permanent pouch, a wrinkle that appears for the season and disappears afterward. She deposits a single, soft, leathery egg directly into the fold, and about 10 days later, it hatches into a jelly bean-sized, eyeless creature called a puggle. The puggle nurses, but not from nipples, because she doesn't have any. Milk oozes from patches on her skin, and the baby laps it up. The platypus and the echidna are the reason the word mammal needed a footnote. Her ancestors diverged from the rest of the mammal line roughly 165 million years ago, kept the egg-laying from their reptile-shaped past, and bolted on fur and milk later. She's sweating milk into a baby that lives in a wrinkle. The first draft of mammal was so weird that nobody bothered editing it out. The wolf spider. If you've ever stepped near a fence in tall grass, you've walked past one of these moms with her cargo. She has no web. She has no nest. She is the nest. She carries her egg sac attached to her spinnerets for 2 to 3 weeks, dragging it behind her while she still hunts. When the spiderlings hatch, they don't disperse. They climb up onto her abdomen and stack themselves 3 to 4 deep, and she carries the entire brood on her back for another week to 10 days. A single Pardosa aumentata mother can carry between 100 and 300 babies at once. 300 passengers, each weighing about 1% of her own body mass. Her own weight, doubled, hauled around while she's still trying to catch flies. The trade-off favors carrying them long enough to get through their first molt. Most people assume the babies are just freeloaders. Actually, she actively grooms each spiderling and uses her pedipalps to push fallen ones back onto the cluster. If you've ever seen one and screamed, you screamed at a school bus. It's the only mother on this list whose babies you can count by accident, with a magnifying glass. The Pacific salmon. This is the famous one. The reason most people half remember that some fish die after laying eggs. The details are worse than you remember. She doesn't just lay eggs and pass away peacefully. The dying starts before the eggs do. Pacific salmon are anadromous, which means she was born in freshwater, matured in the open ocean, and is now returning to the exact stream where she hatched. The moment she crosses back into fresh water, she stops eating. Her body chemistry shifts and starts breaking down her own muscle tissue for fuel. She doesn't stop for snacks. There are no snacks. There's only river. She fights upstream against currents and waterfalls, sometimes for 900 miles, on a body that's literally consuming itself for energy. When she finally gets to the spawning gravel, she carves a shallow nest, releases up to 7,000 eggs, and collapses. The cost of this motherhood is paid in flesh, on a riverbed her babies will eat from before they ever swim. Semelparity, biologists call it. One reproductive event, then death. Evolution invented the one-way trip. Her last act as a mother is to compost herself for the next generation. The kiwi. For perspective, the human equivalent would be a 130-pound mother giving birth to a 30-pound baby. The egg so big, you can see her body distort as it forms. There is X-ray footage. It looks medically impossible. The North Island brown kiwi is a flightless, nocturnal forest bird the size of a chicken, and she lays a single egg up to 20% of her own body mass. The yolk alone is roughly 65% of the egg's volume, almost double the ratio you'd find in most birds, because the chick needs to hatch nearly self-sufficient. For the last few days before she lays, she literally can't eat. The egg has compressed her stomach against her rib cage, and there's no room for food. Imagine being told the baby is 40 pounds, and it isn't out yet. After she lays it, she can barely walk for several days. 20% of body mass, roughly a beach ball, internal, for the last week of pregnancy. The kiwi is descended from a much larger flying ancestor, and when the body shrank over time, the egg blueprint didn't shrink with it. So she's now stuck delivering an egg that was sized for a much bigger bird. She doesn't even sit on it after. She has done enough. Other moms feed their babies. The kiwi mom is exhausted before the baby even shows up. The burying beetle. It's compost with a conscience. She's digging. She's digging fast. There's a corpse. She has plans. The sexton beetle, genus Necrophorus, finds a small dead vertebrate, usually a mouse or a sparrow, and pair bonds with the male to bury the carcass before any other scavenger gets to it. They strip the fur, shape the body into a ball, and smear it with antibacterial secretions to slow decay. Then she lays her eggs in the soil right next to the buried meat. When the larvae hatch, she regurgitates partially digested carrion straight into their mouths, and she stridulates, which is a fancy word for chirps, to call them to her for feeding. She is one of the very few non-mammal, non-bird parents documented vocalizing to her young. A 2-ounce mouse is enough to support a brood of 15 to 30 larvae for about a week of intensive parenting. She runs the smallest funeral home in the forest, and the funeral is also a daycare. She chirps. The corpse is silent. The babies come running. The most attentive mother in the insect world runs a kitchen that is also a graveyard. The Orca Matriarch. This list has shown moms who pay with their bodies. This last one pays in years, and she keeps paying long after most species would have stopped. She hasn't had a calf in a decade. She's still the most important mother in her family. Female orcas can live into their 90s, and menopause hits in the late 30s or early 40s, which means a healthy matriarch spends roughly half her life as a non-reproductive leader. She guides pod movements, locates prey during low salmon years, and disciplines juveniles. A landmark study by Croft and colleagues, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2015, tracked Pacific Northwest pods and found that when an old matriarch dies, her grandcab's first-year survival drops measurably the next season. Orcas are one of only 6 known species on Earth to undergo true menopause. She's the family group chat admin, and she has held the role for 40 years. Most people assume orcapods are male-led. They aren't. The oldest female makes hunting and migration calls, and the data on what happens when she dies proves it. Every other mother on this list traded something irreplaceable to keep her babies alive. The orca trades nothing. She just keeps going. The cost is paid forward. Across generations, she'll outlive the body of. The rest of the list is biology. This one is just a really good grandmother. Insanity on this list mostly meant dying for your kids. The most insane mother of all is the one who refused to. If you made it this far, I post new animal deep dives like this every week. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.